What's up, everybody? War Eagle, War Eagle, War Eagle. We are back. The War Report after a 29-13 Auburn win in Jordan Hare. Before we get into it, preliminaries as always. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know you're out there in the universe. Also, you can follow us on social media, The War Report on Twitter and Instagram. Again, I've been stressing this on our earlier broadcast that we are now on TikTok with TW Report. So you can catch some instant reaction type stuff there on TikTok. Been getting some good engagement. Mike G, we are here after the victory. What's
Oh
up?
man. Overall, I feel like I did at the start of 2019. We won. Uh, we improved definitely. The defense definitely picked it up in the second half, which is pretty customary for Kevin Steele defense. I think they figured out some things. And he's definitely the best in-game adjustment defensive coordinator in the country, right? So he made some changes there, kind of slowed Kentucky down, and they came up with the opportunistic turnover, which was good. Some things that we talked about pre-broadcast definitely happened with the defense giving the offense a short field to score, and overall, I would say happy we got the win. I see lots to build on though.
Yep, definitely a good first game. Definitely a lot of things that we can get improved on. So let's talk game grade. So we want to grade how we feel like everything went this year, or excuse me, this game. Once again, Auburn with the victory 29-13 in Jordan Hare over the Kentucky Wildcats. We got our first comment here from my man Keon says, telling Mike not to be negative on Bo, and he looked better this year. We'll get into Bo Nix and
Yeah,
the
we'll get it.
negative grade.
We'll say that for last, yeah, too.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's just start with kind of a layup here. We're going to talk special teams. How do you feel like the Auburn special teams performed in this game?
You know what? I think punt coverage looked good. They kind of let some people loose on kickoffs a couple times, but overall, I'd give special teams a B plus here. As long as you're not giving up. If we're not talking about special teams, they did a great job.
100% my sentiment there. B plus as well for the special teams. I almost bumped it up to an A minus because of the turnover on the punt coverage that happened there when they inexplicably tried to run a fake punt, and also the 2 point conversion that they stopped on that try from Kentucky is technically a special teams thing. Punting went well, no disasters in the punt game, as well as the coverage on punts and kicks. Like you said, there were a couple of times where some return kicks went a little longer than you'd like, but overall special teams, no problems there. They were definitely afraid to kick the ball to Christian Tutt. They didn't want him touching the ball in any of the punt returns. So kudos to the special teams on that. And then the 2 point conversion that worked, the swinging gate. Like, how often do you
Yeah,
actually see that work?
yeah, I was surprised at that. But again, fortunately, that worked out. So again, if as long as it works, it's genius, right?
Right. Exactly. All right. So let's get over into the defensive side of the ball. We will start on the defensive line. What are you giving a grade for the defensive line here?
You know what? I'm gonna give the D line a B minus for this game. They
Okay.
had to replace. They had some big shoes to fill. Some first round draft picks that went out this year, and I thought again, first half left a lot to be desired. Second half, they started flying around the ball, and I would say B minus there for the D line in the second half, especially.
Yeah, so I actually went C plus, just a little bit below you on that one. I felt like the defensive line definitely had some bright spots. They improved as the game went along. I think what helped the defensive line a lot though is just scheme. Like the scheme just got way better in the second half. You were seeing a lot more blitzing coming from linebacker positions to try to get that additional rusher on the passer.
Right.
Um, Dwan Newkirk had a really good game. He was flashing all over the screen for me. Um, you saw the talent when he hit the field for Big Cat Williams on that almost safety.
Right.
He was primarily responsible for plugging that outside up and forcing the running back to go back inside.
Right.
Defensive line play was solid. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible. It was solid. So a C plus for me on the defensive line. If you guys who are chatting in, if you want to put your scores for this stuff, throw that down there in the chat. If you're watching this later, give us your scores in the comment section as well. We'd like to hear how you felt like the Auburn team played this year, or excuse me, this game. Next for the defense, let's go to the linebackers. How do you feel like the linebacker play was for this game?
Actually, so this is a C plus for me. They definitely started flying around the ball. KJ Britt made some great plays there. Some good stops. Um, they then like the linebacker play was kind of like a symptom of the defense as a whole in the first half, and they improved there. So I'm actually flipping the grades from yours. I'm going to give them a C plus. Not totally negative. I see some positive things that can happen there, kind of moving forward as they figure out what they have.
Yeah, I actually went C plus as well on the linebacker play for this one. And they actually improved to a C plus for me because I did not like the way our linebackers played in the first half of this game. I still had some questions about some things they were doing in the second half. They still look really stiff in coverage. What I did like was their recognition a little bit better in the second half. Situationally, they were doing a lot better. Owen Papo with the big sack on the delayed blitz where he noticed, okay, the running back stayed into block. The only run lane that Terry Wilson has got is going to come through this gap right here. And he went downhill fast and went and attacked it. KJ
Agreed.
Britt just doing a lot better in his run fits in the second half to be able to fill the holes. Again, I think you give some of that to the coordinators for putting them in better positions, understanding how Kentucky wanted to attack and putting guys in positions to make plays. Saw some good exchanges going on, crossing routes between the linebackers, kind of communicating what was happening. So I think overall the linebacker play was good. C plus is what I'm giving them on that one.
All right.
All right, let's go over to the secondary. Auburn's secondary had a decent game. What are you giving your grade for the secondary on this one?
I'm actually giving the secondary an A minus.
Hmm.
I thought that they played an outstanding game. There were a few passes where they gave up some yards, but again, they played well. They played well in coverage, some big third down stops, and they made some plays in the run game as well too, coming up and making plays in the run game, right? Getting tackles on the quarterback. I really thought that the secondary played well.
Yeah, I actually I gave him a B. I didn't go into the A category. But secondary played well. They were solid throughout the game. Definitely liked the way that they played against the run and the short passing game of Kentucky, being able to close out on some of those. Had they not missed a couple of tackles and been out of position a couple of times, I probably would have given them a higher score here. Not bad for a first game. Some communication issues on the back end a couple of times. But overall, a really solid game from our secondary. I expect big things from them. I was disappointed to see we talked about him a little bit at halftime. The young guy Simpson went down with what looked like a hamstring thing. Hopefully that's nothing too serious. Maybe it was just late game cramping or something like that. Hopefully no serious issue there. Roger McCrary had the late pass interference call, which I kind of like. I feel like Terry Wilson threw that ball 5 yards into the sideline, so I don't know about a pass interference. He definitely was holding
Yeah.
him. Like, there's no question whether or not there was contact. It's a question as to whether or not the ball was catchable. So you got to clean that kind of stuff up. That's an automatic first down thing right there. But overall, I have to agree with you. Christian Tutt played pretty well in his support of the run.
I thought he had an outstanding game. He
Yeah,
was
he
all
made some
all
good
over him.
pass breakups. Again, I kudos to Simpson for having a decent game out there. Trying to
And
think of
good open field tackling as well by the
yeah,
secondary. I mean,
very
it was
few
pretty
missed
good.
tackles that led to like long runs, and that's what you see
Right.
when your secondary is missing tackles. That's when you see a lot of long plays happening because that's final. Like if they, two things are very telltale on defense when you talk about statistics is the number of times your secondary is having to make tackles. That usually
Right.
indicates that they're making a lot of long plays, and the secondary is having to clean it up, or how many how much yards after the catch happens. That's typically secondary missing tackles on those situations.
Right.
Both
Right.
of those situations were not great for Kentucky, so secondary plays well. They're a little bit better in some of their exchanges, and I don't know if Kentucky even scores. We have to go back to some penalties in the first half, but the pick six that got called back, decent game for our secondary. All right, let's go to the offense then. And we're going to talk offensive line. How do you feel like that offensive line play was today?
You know what? I'm going to give the O line. I'm going to give the O line all things considered, a B minus. I was bordering on C plus, but I'm gonna give them a B minus. They protected well for the most part. They opened some lanes for the running backs here and there. Our run game wasn't great, but honestly, I felt like the vision by the running backs wasn't great. The entire game, and I think that the O line, again, all things considered, in terms of the amount of experience they had, played the best game we probably could have expected from them. They got better as the game went along. There were a couple plays where Kentucky got pressure on Bo Nix, but for the most part, he wasn't running for his life. For me, that was the key for them, right? Protect the quarterback well enough, and then when they do make athletic plays on defense, Bo Nix can use his legs to kind of, create space and make some plays.
Yeah, no, I actually did give a C plus to the O line. I think that they, for me, the run blocking just wasn't adequate. Late in the game, you have to be able to milk the clock well, and I don't feel like they did a great job in that next to last drive of really being able to secure blocks. We had a couple of errant snaps that happened there, and I didn't like that. But overall, I think we had a pretty decent game from the O line. Chandler Wooten, that's the guy who chose to sit out. That you're talking about there, Keon says. Yes, Chandler Wooten opted out of the season because of COVID concerns. So we are a little shorthanded in our experience in the linebacker core, but still. Anyway, but offensive line, I think they did decent. We'll get into Bo Nix more specifically. I think he could have helped out the offensive line a little bit more by not drifting. He kind of ran himself into pressure a couple of times. But yeah, we'll get to Bo Nix and we'll talk about him in just a minute here. So my grade for the O-line is a C+. Let's take it to the outside here and talk about our wide receivers. How are you feeling about the wide receiver play today?
You know what? I'm going to give the wide receivers an A minus as well too. So like on the outsides, they not any. I mean, besides the drop by Seth Williams on the first play of the game, obviously followed up by some great catches. They ran the routes. They were where they were supposed to be for the most part, and they caught the ball and made plays. I mean, Stowe, Schwartz was dynamic with the ball in his hands on some of those quick outs. Seth Williams obviously came up with a couple of big touchdown catches. Stowe, veteran guy, who's kind of fought through injuries over the last couple of years, came up with some big catches and showed some quickness on the edges. I am pretty happy with the wide receiver play. I mean, we've got everything. We got underneath guys. We got, a jump ball guy on the outside, and we have a burner that can go deep and get behind anybody in college football. So a very, very pleasantly surprised by the wide receiver play today. I did notice, though, on some of those quick outs, too, they were blocking well on the edges as well, too. Right. On some of the, as the offense started to get rolling and they were doing quick screens to the outside, the receivers were able to hold their blocks to get, the ball carrier out for, 5, 6, 7 yards. So.
Yeah, I have to go look at the snap count of kind of who was on the field. I know where the targets went, which a lot of those were Seth Williams, Eli Stove, and Anthony Schwartz got the vast majority of the targets outside of a couple of running backs that got touches. But the wide receivers, I gave the exact same grade of an A minus to them. A lot of that is due to the fact that Seth Williams is just a man-sized receiver out there. The 2 jump ball touchdowns that he had, one of them really great throw by Bo Nix, the other one not so great throw. Both of them absolutely phenomenal catches, though.
Right.
He goes up and high points the ball and snatches the ball from the receivers, from the defensive backs over his head on the other one. So wide receiver play really good. They were sharp. They didn't, other than the early drop that you mentioned with Seth Williams, there were no drops by receivers on catchable balls. So the receivers played well. Like you said, the blocking was good. Seth Williams, the one critique I have of his game, well, there's 2 critiques I have of Seth Williams' game, but the one major critique I have of his game that's going to prevent him from being an elite receiver at the next level is his inability to really secure blocks on the outside. He doesn't do it consistently enough, but I think he'll get there because he's going to have to. If he's not a number 1 receiver, then he's going to be asked to block a lot.
Right.
So overall, I think the wide receivers did a really good game. All right, so this is something we probably did not get a chance to rate very much in previous seasons, and I'm kind of throwing a curveball at you here. But I want to see what do you think about the way tight ends played in this game?
Honestly, I did not think about the tight ends not one time this entire game.
The only reason I mentioned this is the announcers talked about tight ends ad nauseum throughout, like
Yeah,
over and over and over again. There wasn't a single tight end. Like,
yeah, they
okay,
were a
so
factor.
Shanker made one catch for like a little slip screen that happened, and I think he's more of a fullback than a tight end. He might have been lined up as a tight end. Like
Right.
Pegues was out there a couple of times, and he made a couple of blocks. He was basically out there as a moving freight train on the one wide receiver screen that happened. He comes in motion, and he gets a full head of steam going towards the DB to go out there and set a block for a screen. But I didn't see the tight ends make some huge so I don't even really have a grade for him. I just threw that out there because I wanted to talk about how much the announcers talked about the tight end and how the tight end was going to be so crucial to this offense. And all off season, once again, we heard about the tight end, the tight end, the tight end. Okay, they were decent blocking, but nothing that really made me say, man, wow, Auburn's really using their tight ends this year. So
Yeah, if they do add that wrinkle later, though, it will be a surprise to people. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that become a factor, in future games.
all right, so let's go then to the running back group. How do we feel like our running backs played this game?
So this is complicated, right? Because so much of how they play is tied to how the O line plays. So, again, all things considered, I think that the running backs were C plus. They did the job for the most part. But what I saw is that they're trying to figure out who the number one running back is. And I saw flashes from Tank Bigsby there that makes me think that they think he's the next man up. DJ Williams played okay.
DJ Williams tripped up over air.
Man, it was so bad. Like it was like, dude, like what are you doing down there in the red zone? And fortunately, we still got the touchdown on that drive, but it left us with a very difficult kind of 3rd and 5. Rather than again, what should have been 2nd and 3 kind of going in there. So like, I am not disappointed. I'm not fully, I think this is what we expected because Boobie Whitlow was our number 1 back and I wasn't in love with him last year. So the other 2 guys had been on the team and Bigsby is the newcomer to this group. So doesn't seem like there's a lot of star power, but it looks like they might be trying to see what Tank has, and I would expect him to be factored in heavily going forward based on what we saw today.
Yeah, I agree with the fact that I feel like the running back group did a decent job today. I have them down here as a B minus. I think you gave them a C plus.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with a B minus though. Like,
yeah, I think a lot of it was, again, I don't feel like our run blocking was great, so they didn't have a lot of opportunities. I do agree with you about the assessment on Tank. Tank Bigsby looks as if he can be a workhorse back because he is a between the tackles, hit the hole and go type of guy. He probably needs to work on his patience a little bit, but I like the fact that against the way that the Kentucky defense was playing, you didn't need to be patient. You need to just go out there, get the yardage, get us ahead of the chains. And Tank was that guy who seemed like he was ready to get down and dirty in there. I think the first half we had a pretty decent game from Shivers. So overall, running backs did well. I didn't see a ton of busts in pass protection out of them.
Right.
We had some catches out of the backfield that happened for them. So overall, a decent game from our running back group. I'd like to see us clean up the blocking to have them get more of an opportunity to do some things dynamically down the field and see if they can break tackles. But yeah, nothing too terrible to talk about there for the running backs. B minus for me. All right. So let's get to the one that I'm sure everybody wants to hear us talk about, which is the quarterback. Bo Nix, how was he playing this game for you? What's your grade on Bo?
I will break my scores up.
Okay.
To first half and second half. First half, C minus. Second half, just a flat B, right? Like, fortunately, again, because of the defense, the game wasn't really in his hands at the end. which I am thankful for. But what I saw, let's talk about the positives of Bo today, right? Like the obvious open throws he hit, and he did hit receivers in stride today. I saw that he hit Seth in stride, he hit Eli Stove in stride, on that touchdown pass. He hit another one to Schwartz, kind of coming across the middle in stride, and it gives those guys an opportunity to use their athleticism and get yards after the catch to get yak there. So that's something that was tough last year when he was throwing behind receivers, and even when they were pulling out these amazing catches, they were falling down, and it really can kill your offense, because a couple of those plays where your receivers may run for 20, 30 yards after the catch. Well, it's only a 6 or 7 yard catch because of ball placement. So I thought that when he stood in the pocket and threw the ball correctly with good mechanics, his delivery was good. So like I said, flat B, because, again, he threw for over 200 yards and, what there was 2 or 3 touchdowns. And I stood for real hard.
16 of 27, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Right. I mean, last year, opening against Oregon, he was 13 of 31 with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. So the other reason why I give him a B is he did not throw a pick. So anytime you don't fumble, you don't turn the ball over, that's always, plus 10 points in my book, right? Ball security. So he wasn't really, but credit to the O-line, right? Like he wasn't in a whole lot of situations where he had to. And the reason that Bo doesn't get an A today in my book is because he's still got mechanical issues, man, and he's still trying to make hero throws off his back foot. You mentioned it during the broadcast. He doesn't. He's kind of running himself out of the play and then trying to make bad throws to compensate. There was one throw that he completed to Seth Williams down the field.
It
was no man. Like
it was an absolute prayer.
As soon as he threw it, I was like, what the hell? And it ended up okay. But against LSU or Bama, that's a pick, right? And so, it can't just be about the end result. That's a ball that should not have been thrown in the situation that we were in at that point. You weren't trying to win the game. The game wasn't going to be won on that play, but it may have been lost on that play. Right. And so you threw up a 50-50 ball in a situation like that, and it just happens to work out. You don't score points in my book because, that very easily could have gone the other direction in a situation where it wasn't absolutely necessary to take that risk.
Yeah, no, I gave him a B- overall for the game. I think if you averaged out your first and second half, you'll probably be right around B- or maybe a C+.
It's a B for me.
Yeah, so a solid B overall the game. My only issues with Bo was mechanics. Like it was the biggest thing for him was mechanics. I mentioned this earlier, him drifting into the rush a lot of times, and they mentioned it on their broadcast how he almost always attempts to escape out to the right. So, defensive coordinators that see that are going to start to bring pressure off of his right side to make sure that he's flushed into an uncomfortable position. He's got to learn how to step up into the pressure sometimes and keep his eyes downfield and just make a tough throw. He did that a couple of times, though. So this is what I want to say is that his ability to throw under duress is a lot better this year with more accuracy. He made one throw that I thought was amazing to Stowe where he's got a guy draped over him, and he still completed it down the field for a first down. That was a great throw. The touchdown that he throws to Seth Williams, that's a jump ball, that's technically mechanically wrong because he's throwing it on the run wrong-footed, but that throw is still going.
Which one? He threw 2 jump balls. Both of them.
I'm talking about the first one. The first one that was in the back of the end zone where Seth Williams it goes over the top of the linebacker and Seth Williams high points it. That was a great throw because that's one of those. It's either sailing into the stands or Seth Williams coming down with that.
Right.
The second one was again a poor throw
fade
because he's trying to throw the fade route, but he underthrows it significantly, and Seth Williams bails him out with an amazing catch.
Yeah, he threw the DB into the play on that, and again against LSU or Bama, where the DB gets their head around. The DB gets their head around that ball is picked.
I don't know
right?
about picked, but it's at least broken up. But yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
like I mean, like listen, again, against the better DBs in the league, if the DB gets his head around, let me put it this way: if it's not picked, Seth Williams is playing DB on that play
For sure.
and
No,
not
I agree.
receiver,
I agree with that
right?
100%.
Just to stop the interception, right? So there were some things there that definitely could have turned his B into a C minus on the day, if we were just playing a better team. Now, fortunately, this was Kentucky, and so if he corrects these things moving forward, then my score for him will be higher, right? But right now, my score reflects an improvement over last year overall.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
clear,
giving I'm grading him just on this year. I think he made some very, very solid throws. He, like you mentioned, he hits guys this year. So number one, let's just we'll get to coaching in a second, but a lot of what you see as an improvement from Bo Nix for sure has to do with the scheme being better. His
right,
ability to hit guys
100%.
in stride is because guys are being schemed open. The way that we are attacking defenses, and the thing I like about what I saw from Bo Nix today was he was throwing with anticipation a lot more. He was throwing it anticipating the window coming up. It wasn't he had to wait for the guy to be open. He was saying, this guy's going to hit this mark at this place, let it rip. And he was doing
Right,
that down the field consistently. The first big play he hit to Seth Williams in the second half, Seth wasn't open when he throws his hand up on the mail. Like he throws his hand up and he's even with the DB at the time. But he notices, okay, I've got my the coverage that they're in means that the outside guy is gonna stop. He's running a stop route on the outside. So he's like, all right, great. That's his responsibility. I'm gonna let it rip to my guy. And if it becomes a jump ball between him and this outside guy, I trust my guy.
right,
That's the kind of stuff you have to see from a receiver and quarterback, which is I'm gonna go get open. Just throw me the ball. He did that consistently throughout the game. There's some throws that you want back from him. There's some throws where he got bailed out. But overall, that's why I give him a B minus. A very decent job from Bo Nix today, in my opinion. He's got to clean up the mechanics of not drifting when he gets to his back foot and the throw is not there immediately. His immediate thought process is drift right every single time. He gets back there, it's not there, he drifts right. And he's got to figure out how to stay inside of the pocket and make throws from the pocket. Continue talking. My charger's running down. I'm gonna go grab it real quick.
no worries. You know what? There were a couple of throws there where he drifted to the right. And for those of you watching, like I don't know if you remember, but like there was no need to drift outside. He could have just stepped up into the pocket and completed the pass or thrown it away, or maybe it would have kept his eyes in the correct position for him to find another receiver downfield, right? So those are my things with Bo Nix, where I feel like at the end of the day, what it boils down to is he going to continue to make, rookie mistakes? I mean, because he made some rookie mistakes today. He made some freshman mistakes today with the ball. And the reason why I'm so hard on him is because those throws will be the difference between a chance at a championship or not, right?
Yeah, like I said, I think you are being a little hard on him. I think he did a really good job. He took care of the ball for the most part. I think the thing that I want to see as a game to game progression is whether or not he's going to be more sure in the way that he stays in the pocket and keeps that integrity of making sure he's not putting his offensive line in bad positions because he's running away from a non-existent rush, or if our offensive line gives him some more balance and able to run the ball a little bit more. I really want the run game to be better. Again, I'm not talking about being a run first team because it's
Mm-hmm.
clear that they're putting the ball in Bo Nix's hands and asking him to go out there and throw it. But I need the run game to be more productive on a consistent basis. And right now, I just don't see that. So hopefully, we'll be able to get a little bit better production from our running back group because
Well,
the
they've got
offense will
to
go better.
they've got to identify a number one running back
Yeah,
first, right? Like they've got to. We need an identity at running back
for
first,
sure.
right? And so today went a long way toward figuring, kind of trying to sort that out. And as the season goes on and progresses, right, I expect them to be able to continue to win games while we figure that out. So similar to last year, how while Bo was figuring his stuff out, the defense was carrying us, right?
Yeah,
And now it's his turn to return the favor.
for sure.
And that's why I'm hard on him, because if he plays like he played today, we don't have a chance to win the SEC or make the playoff, or I mean, again, there's significant amount of improvement that still has to be made, in terms of his play,
Yeah,
because
no, he's not a pro caliber quarterback right now by any
yeah,
stretch of the
the
imagination.
competition is only going to get tougher as the year goes on, and he'll have some early season challenges, right? Like we played Georgia early in the year this year.
Next week, our next game is Georgia.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, listen, he's going to have to grow up quickly, and so the I saw some positives to build on. And if this offensive line gets a little bit better from week 1 to week 2, and Bo gets better from week 1 to week 2, then we have a chance. If we can beat Georgia in week 2, we're a top 5 team, right? You hear that. I mean, what do they rank right now? 4 in the polls? I mean,
Yeah.
they're a top 5 team. They're a top 5 team. And we're teetering on number 8. And I just feel like if we can beat them playing a clean game, right? Then, I saw a lot of the same from the defense, man. They improved as the game went along. They got turnovers, right? And they didn't give up points, right? Bend but don't break, and
that's what we talked about as our defense has been kind of traditionally under Kevin Steele. It's been but don't break. It's like the yardage is always gonna look ridiculous against our defense for whatever reason. Like they're gonna give up a couple of plays, they're gonna give up some long drives, but they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna figure out a way, and they're gonna be opportunistic. If you give them a chance to take the ball away, they're absolutely going to do it. Terry Wilson with I don't even know what happened on that spin move fumble. The ball just slipped out of his hands, but the guys were right. That was actually, I think that was McCrary on the outside. Was that McCrary that was playing him on that?
On the fumble?
Or McLean? Which guy was that?
I think it was McLean. It was playing.
So I don't remember who it was. If somebody in the chat remembers who it was that was actually playing, it was a great spy job, because he was just basically sitting and waiting to see if Terry was going to take off around the outside. He broke down and waited for him and forced him back inside. As he spun inside, he lost the ball. Even if he had missed and kept the ball, he was going to get absolutely obliterated by the linebacker, which is what ended up happening.
Right.
So
I just think, at the end of the day, they defensively, I think they're not there, but there's a lot to look forward to. I think that Kevin Steele showed us again why he's worth all the money that we're paying him. Because next man up, right? And while we had to replace a lot of people on D-line, and we're trying to figure things out at linebacker. If you have corners who can cover in man-to-man, it will cover a lot of that for you, right? So if you don't have to worry about guys over the top and your corners and safeties are doing the job, they can throw a little bit more support up in there against the run and help the D-line out a little bit. So I was very encouraged by what I saw from the defense as the game went on. And listen, we should have led the show with this, but credit to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Right. They came out and played tough, and I think that their quarterback played a solid game. In his first start on the road, I thought that he played a solid game. All things considered. So, credit to Kentucky for how they came out and performed as well too. At the end of the day, Auburn is a supremely talented team in terms of overall talent, and I think that they just got out talented today. Chad Morris, his scheme was good. Listen, I was hard on Bo in the first half, but remember at halftime I said, listen, I think the scheme is good. The opportunities are there.
Well, let's pivot right there then. Let's talk about coaching and give some grades to the coaching here.
All right.
We can go both sides of the ball, and then we can go head coach. So let's start on the defensive side of the ball. I think this one's a layup, but let's start on the defense.
A+, man. Come on.
Yeah,
They,
I would go.
they
I'd actually
feel.
go. I go A minus just because early in the game I figure like he was feeling his way out. But yeah, nah, I could actually bump it up to a solid A. Um, I defensively, I think we did what we were supposed to do, and we did not get out coached. Kudos again to Kentucky for their offensive coordinator being really prepared with a good game plan coming in and how
Mhm.
he wanted to attack our defense, and they had success early, but the adjustments were superb
Right.
adjustments.
I think 145 yards on the ground, like to put that in perspective, in the first half, they had nearly 100 yards rushing on us,
Correct.
right? And after the half, and they only finished with 145 yards rushing. So there were some serious adjustments made defensively at halftime that were encouraging to see. And, the way the game started, for them to hold Kentucky to only 13 points was impressive,
Yeah.
right? And especially with the string of three and outs that the offense kind of gave them there in the middle of the game. I really thought they adjusted well to what Kentucky was doing. Started to plug up the gaps and fill some of those run lanes, and then fly to the ball, which led to turnovers. Now, officially, we had two turnovers on the day, right? We had two fumble recoveries.
Three. That interception counted. So it's an interception and two fumble
Oh yeah,
recoveries.
the interception did count, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, even though we didn't get the score. So, and I say four turnovers because the
This
ridiculous fourth down punt thing, whatever Kentucky was trying to accomplish there,
yeah,
is
we
kind
had
of,
two turnover on downs, the stupid punt thing, and then we stopped them on fourth down another time. So
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, the stop on fourth down, is what it is. The punt stop feels like a turnover because of where they gave us the ball, and it was
yeah,
so unnecessary at that point. I mean, I thought that was an absolute coaching blunder by Kentucky. With 9 minutes left in the ball game, down 8, like why risk that in your opponent? And then we made them pay
right.
immediately, right? So that was at least a 7-point swing that was really kind of put the game out of reach for them after that call.
Yeah.
But coaching,
Let's flip
I
it to
will
the
say,
offensive side then.
yeah, offensive. Well, wait, what's your grade for defensive coaching?
Well, that's why I said I started A minus, but I think I'm gonna do a solid A on defensive coaching because it's
Okay,
just yeah, really good job on the defensive side of the ball because you can tell he had his guys prepared and he made the adjustments where necessary. So you can't fault anybody. Like I think the things that happened defensively weren't a coaching mistake.
right.
I think it was just guys who missed assignments or missed a tackle or a really good play by a Kentucky player. So overall, I'll give it an A.
All right. Well, on the offensive side, I'm going to break my scores up
Okay.
because I think for the most part the offensive coaching is going to follow the performance of the players to some extent, but I give them offensively. I give them an A for scheme and a B for execution. Right? Like, I mean, I think they get a B for execution. You got 3 touchdowns. We were less than. I mean, if we had gotten over 400 yards of offense, this would be an A. But we actually got out with only 324 yards of total offense. That's a pretty pedestrian day offensively, and the score doesn't reflect some of how stagnant we were on offense because defense gave them a short field on 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
my score, from an execution standpoint, reflects the improvement that I think we need to make by next week.
Yeah, I think the thing that offensively is going to put me at a B for them is because I think the scheme was solid. What I do not like is I don't know if this is just something I think we're gonna have to feel out Chad Morris about is he feels a little stubborn in the way that he wants to run the ball. When we were having success running it around the outside, it seemed like he stopped going to it. And I don't think Kentucky really did anything to make the play calling adjust in that way. He just stopped doing it. I just do wonder about that. But as far as the game plan they came in with, the way they decided they wanted to attack Kentucky, and even some adjustments that I saw them make in the way that they wanted to attack, which were like we would run something, then we would run something that looked like it, but it would have a different wrinkle because you realize kind of, okay, we've shown them this before. Let me show you something else
Right.
without showing too much too early in the season, which we didn't end up having to do that. I think the one uh, fumble kind of situation that happened, it looked like it was about to be a reverse to Anthony Schwartz, and they ended up fumbling the snap on the play, and so it never really got back around to that. But I think overall, the offensive coaching and game plan was solid. So, I'll give it a B. Now let's talk the head ball coach. What are you giving Gus Malzahn in his first outing overall for this game?
Well, listen, we're not we're not talking about Gus, so like I'm giving him an A.
You know what?
An A
Exactly.
an A for the Chad Morris hire. An A for not meddling in what you hired Chad Morris to do.
Right.
And an A for a continuing A for for keeping Kevin Steele. And for the most part, we looked well conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any fatigue issues on the field. There were a couple of plays where some players came up and give people, but for the most part, they looked ready to play.
Yeah. And
And
so this I want to go back to something that you said is like good head coaches are going to be evident in this first game because they're going to have put a program together that gets their kids out there and be prepared. I
right.
feel like that actually fits Gus. I actually can't believe that I'm saying this right now,
Yeah, we looked
but that
prepared.
actually fits Gus in this situation. Like, regardless of whether or not it was because he had great staff that was getting it's the program. The
Yeah,
program
yeah,
was successful in week one because they looked ready to play football better than Kentucky looked ready to play football.
yeah.
And that
Listen,
to
when
me
you
is indicative of great coaching hires and great recruiting, and then good programs and regiments around getting guys ready and getting
Yeah,
bodies in shape.
and to be clear, I think Kentucky was ready for this game. I just don't think they had enough talent on the field at the end
Yeah,
of the day to win it.
but that's what I'm saying.
That's
It's
it.
overall, it's the totality of the program. We just had
Yeah.
better guys out on the field ready to play ball than Kentucky did.
Right. Yeah. Listen, we have not. This is the most encouraged I felt after an Auburn opener in quite some time. Right. Like, that, the pieces could be there if they figure out a few things. And like, I feel we won Oregon in spectacular fashion last year. And
Right.
by all intents and purposes, the end of that game made great theater. But I
I am
left that
thankful
game
to not
thinking,
have that theater this game. I was glad
right,
we
yeah,
just
I
won
was
it.
just like, yo, after that game, bro, I was like, yo, like this is maybe a long season, and it ended up being one, right? So I don't have that. I feel like this season could be something sneakily special, right? And
Especially if the defense is going to continue to improve. If the offense
right,
reproduces today and our defense becomes more dominant, we're a scary team because we're getting three and outs and getting the ball back to a potentially dangerous offense.
yeah, like I'd be careful with saying that if they reproduce today because that's going to look different depending on the opponent, right? Like I
Well, I
think
mean,
if we
statistically, I don't mean necessarily game play in and play out. I'm talking about if we're producing 300 and something yards of offense, that's going to go to four something hundred yards if the defense is consistently getting three and outs. Like, or if we're getting a bunch of short fields, that's going to look like 40 something points per game. Because when we got into the red zone, we were scoring other than the time that we went for it on fourth down. Like, they put up points today in the situations where last year, how many times last year do we give the ball to the offense inside the 10-yard line and we end up either getting no points or a field goal? This year, or today at least, they were scoring touchdowns.
yeah, they scored once outside the red zone, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and twice inside the red zone. Um, I just think that there's still it's better than it was last year offensively
Yeah.
for sure. because and that's just based on scheme. I just think the
You know,
scheme is
you know
better,
what hurts
so the
my heart
players are
though
better.
is if we had played offensively this way last year, we're probably talking about a national championship with the way our defense was.
Well, let's see
But
how they finish out the season. But I would not disagree with that statement. I think if we had this scheme last year, we are possibly sliding in to the playoff sneakily in a fourth spot and booting Oklahoma out, right?
right,
Like, and possibly, or we're sliding in a top spot and LSU is sliding in there because we played the best game against him defensively than any other team did that year, right?
right,
Like, I mean, we limited Joe Burrow. Nobody else limited Joe Burrow. Nobody. He went off both playoff games, and he went off in the SEC championship. And I mean, he was clearly the Heisman winner, right? Like,
right.
it was not even a question. So, to me, offensively, the potential to be better is there. And we get a chance to see how much better next week. Like,
Oh yeah, we're gonna know really early next
yeah,
week whether or not this was it was because it's Kentucky or is Auburn for real on the offensive
fair
side of
enough.
the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah. It's just I'm holding out judgment is what I'm trying to say on the offense until I see it against better competition. But overall for a first game, because we were supposed to open this season with North Carolina,
Hmm.
which would have been a decent test, but still would not have ultimately been a ultimate determining, factor in like how well our season was going to go offensively. So,
True.
one of the things that you see from the better quarterbacks in our league is that they take significant strides forward in their second year starting, right? Like, quarterbacks like Tua and, Joe Burrow, like, he was average his first year at LSU after he came in from Ohio State and then made a monumental leap from year one to year two that, I mean, I don't know if you can get, when you go from average to below average to Heisman in 1 year, that is now, mind you, he had some incredible receivers, but like if you watch him play, the thing that struck me about him was accuracy.
Yeah.
He was accurate, right? And what I saw from Bo Nix today was he hit a lot of he hit receivers in stride, man, and that wasn't happening last year, and that's where I'm encouraged.
Right.
Give these guys a chance to use their God-given athletic abilities after they catch the ball, rather than just having to catch it and fall down or go out of bounds, right? Like that is going to be the difference, between wins and losses in an all SEC schedule. So, we're going to win this thing if we win it on Bo Nix's arm. That's what, and you don't get any breaks in my book if that's the way we have to run it. He just has to be good. He just has to be good. And our score
I
passing
think
game.
overall, again, this game he was good. And I'm looking forward to, like you said, against tougher competition, against better athletes on the other side of the ball. Are we going to be able to produce, 30 points, which we almost came up with today? I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for almost calling the score exactly and the game playing out pretty close to what I said was going to happen. Tough sledding early, and we were going to break away with two late scores to put it out of reach in a 14-point win. My score call was 27-13. We won the game, 28 or was it 28 or 29 to 13?
29-13.
Yeah, so I was off by 2 points on our offensive output. Now, again,
Yeah,
I
I would pat
understand that
myself too hard on the back for that one. I mean, like, listen, the defense, the defense, the
opportunistic.
defense made some plays that I was we've made traditionally. I just didn't know if we would make them this year without our all-world defensive linemen.
Right.
And they found a way. The secondary played better.
I think we have a better secondary this year. Oddly, even with all the losses that we had, I think we have just guys that are just
they're solid.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody called that. Nobody called the secondary play, and I think that was the difference in being able to hold them to 13 points. So, like, in terms of my prediction, like I thought 10 was the number. So, it's pretty close to that. What I did not see on offense were the two short fields and then the gift from Kentucky, right? Like, if they punt that ball, I think personally take a touchdown off the board. They punt
possibly.
They punt instead of going for it on fourth down, like take a touchdown off the board. Those are the things you can't really account for, right? Like, so,
but the reason why you still have to give the offense credit for that is, again, last year, short fields, we aren't scoring the ball. Like, we just don't score the ball in the Gus Malzahn offense with a short field. Like, that's just not how he produces points. This year, the defense gives you an opportunity, the offense capitalizes.
Right, that's credit to Chad Morris. No, that's credit to Chad Morris. That's scheme, right?
Yes, 100%. I'm agreeing with that. I'm saying that I expect us to be able to do that more consistently this year.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Well, I'm hoping
we're
able to do that more.
Well, my point is the players were capable of that last year, but they were limited by the scheme and the play calling and the coaching.
Agree.
Right.
And again, that's why I said a lot of my optimism about the point total was because I was feeling like Chad Morris was going to put us in better position.
That's fair. That's fair. I will. You did say that consistently, that you felt like Chad Morris would be the difference. Now,
right.
For me, I'm more of a wait and see guy when it comes to whether Gus is going to meddle or not.
Yeah, adversity, whether or not, like, if we get into a tight game next week with Georgia and we've got to figure it out on a third down call and we're up by 2, down by 4, something like that in the fourth quarter, is this going to be a pissing contest between him and Chad about who's going to make the call on what we do? Yeah,
I don't think that it can be at this point because he's clearly on the hot seat, right? Like, based on how he's bet his career at Auburn on Bo Nix. Right. So, he needs, his affinity for meddling has been well documented at this point, which is, him and Chad Morris, go way back, in their coaching, in his coaching tree. Right. Like, so they've got, a history together. And, I know they share similar offensive philosophies, but what I think is that, if, who's coaching quarterbacks? Is Chad Morris coaching quarterbacks?
It's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah, if Bo is getting some decent quarterback coaching and they look at the tape and they say, Bo, you can't make this throw, you can't make that throw, stop throwing off your back foot, right? Like, and he starts to clean that stuff up. I am, and to me, you have to earn the right to make those kind of throws consistently. Right, and I'm not sure Bo has earned that just yet. Like, he needs to show us basic mechanics more consistently before we start letting him do 360 throws off his back foot. Right, like, there's certain quarterbacks that have the athletic ability to be able to pull that off regularly. I know that Nick Saban doesn't want to see any of that from his quarterback because he's not Tua.
Right.
He's just not. Right. Now, he's a solid quarterback, though. Right. And he can make most of the plays, but he's got to play within his game, man. And the couple times that he got outside of his lane, right, in the Iron Bowl last year, it was a disaster.
Chad Morris is a QB coach.
He is a QB coach. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Matt Jones, a couple times that he got his lane last year, again, the Iron Bowl, it was a disaster for them. And he still played a solid game.
Right.
But again, that's what I'm telling you. That's why I'm hard on, and most people said about the Alabama quarterback after that Iron Bowl was, all things considered, we can't be mad. He gave us the best chance to win in the circumstances that he was in the biggest game of his life with the Heisman contender out essentially on the bench. He had big shoes to fill. In year 2, if he's the starter, he's not getting that benefit of the doubt, right? Like, that is my point with Bo Nix. Like, the Alabama quarterback, like, they're not going to care that he almost won the Iron Bowl last year, right? He's got to win it this year. He's got the plays that he didn't make last year, he has to make this year to take the next step. Or, again, they're going to find themselves in the same position they were. If they beat Auburn, they're likely in the playoff, right? If they beat Auburn, they're likely in the playoff. So that's all I'm saying. I'm like, if when you look at it and you look at what is happening, on offense, Bo Nix just has to take the next step. And that's what I'm going to be watching closely all year because the skill positions are there, right? If the O-line can just get better from game to game, this team should remain a top 10 team for the entirety of this season on an all SEC schedule. That's all I'm saying.
I'll agree with that 100%. If the O-line improves week in and week out, this is going to, again, I'm not going to jump to, we're going to be record breaking. I think we can be solid on offense. And that's really all I need for them to be is solid. Like take care of the ball, flip the field when necessary. And then when you're given the opportunity to score, go down there and score the ball. And that's what they did today. Took care of the ball. They flipped the field a couple of times. And then when the defense gave them an opportunity to score, they scored.
Right.
You can do that consistently week in and week out, regardless of the competition, regardless really of how many points it ends up equating to, right? Like, I don't care if that's only 14 points. If your defense is doing that and they're only giving up 13, you win the ball game.
Right.
I just need for the offense to continue to do that. I think we've got the athletes to do it on the outside. And like you said, it comes down to whether or not Bo Nix makes good decisions with the football and he gives his guys a chance. Today he did that. He made a couple of decisions that you want to, you take him back into the film room and you're like, look, you can't make this throw. You can't drift on this play. You've got to be able to do this right here. You see this guy, not coming out of his break when you expect it to come off of that receiver. There are other guys in this pattern right now. Get on to the next guy, right? You see him do those types of things consistently. You're going to see Auburn put some wins together this season. Next week is going to be a really, really telltale game, though. Again, when the athletes are more even, or even we have a deficit, meaning the other team has better athletes on the other side of the ball, that's when coaching, scheme, being solid and sound come into play. So like, okay, we can't just be athletically better than them. What are we going to do play in and play out to make the opportunities and take advantage of those?
Right. Those will be the games where when we grade coaching will be the difference. Coaching and Bo will be the difference between whether we won or we lost the game, right? And so, everybody in the SEC recruits, right? So there's talent all over our conference, even at places like Ole Miss. I mean, look, they gave Florida a little bit of a fight today, and I just think, when no matter where you go, and it's an all SEC schedule this year, right? So no outside distractions, no weird games against pack teams, right? Like that may or may not be good indicators of how good we are. Oregon was good. It was good for the ratings last year, and we won that game. But I'm telling you that there's fool's gold sometimes in winning games that you should not have won, right? Because depending on your coaching staff, if they don't see what needs to improve on the tape because you won the game, it sets you back against better competition. And I just remember feeling like after Oregon last year, yeah, we won and it was exciting, but there is a ton of stuff to clean up.
Right.
And they never really got those things cleaned up and they showed up as L's on our schedule, right? This year, I feel like there's some things to clean up, but there's significantly less to clean up this year, than there was last year. Right. I think we have a chance to be better defensively in light of the people that we lost.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot because only a few programs can claim to be able to do that year in, year out while losing first players to the first round of the draft.
Right.
LSU is being slept on this year. I just think they've been a player factory. And what makes me a little bitter is I feel like Auburn should be that same type of factory based on the talent that we recruit every single year, right? So, maybe this is the year where Gus figures it out, and hopefully we can hold on because we seem to be coordinator springboard paradise, right? Like people come to Auburn, they have a great year, and then they go take their next head coaching job somewhere else, right? So, if we can hold on to, Chad Morris for a little bit, that would be great.
Maybe Chad Morris does the same thing, and says, "Hey, listen, coordinator is just where I fit, right?" And
Right.
that's one of those things where some guys just realize, you know what, I'm just better as a coordinator. Kevin Steele realized that he didn't want a head coaching job, and I'm sure he's been offered them since he's been here at Auburn. He wanted to be a defensive coordinator, and he's like, "Listen, this is where I am. This is where I'm going to be." And we're thankful to that because he's given our staff some consistency. Maybe Chad
Right.
Morris realizes the same thing. And he's like, I'm really good at being an offensive coordinator. Let me do that. And then our program becomes this perennial powerhouse where we're producing guys that are going on to the next level and being really good. And then new recruits see that and they come through and they're like, this is the place where you want to go if you want to get to the league, because they're going to develop you into a top caliber all SEC, all whatever talent, and you can go out there and you can play on Sundays. We'll see.
Right.
But I think Seth Williams is making a debate as to whether or not he can be a pro caliber wide receiver just with his ability in 50-50 balls.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he's a little bit better with his route running and his just ability to separate, because you see, like, he makes phenomenal catches because he's not getting a ton of separation a lot. But they're requiring that of him a lot too. So it's a thing of like, is it because he can't get separation, or is it just the kind of routes that he's being required to run? And I don't know what the answer to that is. But there is 100% value in a guy that you can just throw the ball in his area code, and he's going to go up there and he's going to make a play on it.
Yeah, listen, it's at the end of the game when you have to throw that fade route in the back of the corner of the end zone to win it. You need that guy. Right. And Sammy Coates was that type of guy for us to some extent, like a big, strong, physical receiver that could go up and get the ball. I thought Nate Craig Myers would be that guy that last at Auburn, and so I think, this is his year to play his way into, the mid rounds of the draft, depending on the type of year he has. But, hey, great start to the year, man. 2 touchdown catches. And decent amount of receptions and yards.
So let me see official stats on Seth Williams for today. He had 6 receptions for 112 yards. He averaged 18 yards per catch with 2 touchdowns.
That's a pro day.
Yeah,
that's a pro day. 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Come on, man.
Yeah, 12 targets with 6 receptions. Yeah, he had a good game. That's the kind of game that you want to continue to put on film, so that you can make it to the next level. If he has those kind of stats week in and week out, good guy.
Yeah, he's going to be in the running for best wide receiver in college football if he does that every game. It's sort of the SEC, right? Like, a shortened schedule, man, that will put him right around 1,000 yards receiving and 20 touchdowns. Like that's a career maker. So we'll see. Georgia's going to game plan for him next week.
I'm looking forward to seeing. Georgia, who are they playing today?
They are playing Arkansas, I believe.
Yeah, we'll really find out a ton from Georgia. I'm going to go check out this Georgia-Arkansas game and see how they're looking right now, too. Any last words? Arkansas is already on the board against them.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's SEC football is back, baby. We're here, and we're going to be talking Auburn football all season. So if you're watching the broadcast, check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on TikTok. We will be live. We're the War Report, TW Report on TikTok. On Twitter, we're the War Report. On Instagram and on YouTube. Myself, Isaac, Caesar, and Brian will be joining us in future broadcasts to continue to talk Auburn football this season. So we're excited.
Yep, and the words of my man Chavez right there on the screen. War damn Eagle.
War damn Eagle.
Next time.